Hello everyone, I have the newest version of Laces generator to show you, the version 2.0. With it we have some new exciting features. For example, we have new eyelets which we can switch between with the Shift plus E, so with the crease edge setting. And you can see that when we change the type of eyelets, the width will adjust properly. And then next up we have the new lacing style, that is the straight bar lacing. And for this we have a new drop down menu where we can choose between the cross and the straight bar lacing styles. So next up we have also the new chaos settings, which will help us create a more irregular look. And for this we have those two settings, that is the chaos setting and the chaos offset. And then something that can be useful for some fantasy artwork, for example, is that we can mix the lacing styles for the regular eyelets, and we do it simply with the mark sharp edge in the edges edit mode. And now you can see for those sharp edges we have the straight bar, and for the rest we have the cross lacing style. And another change is that now we have just one asset that has the packed round laces and the flat laces in it, and then one additional option, that is the custom profile. And for this we have this special panel over here where we just pick the mesh for the profile, and it is just a regular mesh, and we are reading the boundary edges for the profile of the laces. So there you have it. This pretty much sums up the intro part of this video. So there you have some new features and some changes with the slicker UI for the Laces generator. So next up we'll take a look top to bottom for some other new features, but first let's start with the installing of this asset library. So for this we'll need asset browser in Blender, so let's choose it over here. And right now you can see some of my other tools in here. So let's set up Laces generator. So over here we have the file that you can download after the purchase. It's just a simple blend file. Let's copy the directory path to the folder containing the file. And now all we have to do is go to user preferences, file paths, and in the asset library hit on the plus, copy paste the directory, and now we are all set. I recommend setting the import method to append, and now it's all done. If we find the correct folder over there, so now we have the Laces generator in Blender. And now all we have to do is simply drag and drop the asset into the scene, and now we are ready to go. We can start editing it with some standard Blender edit tools like cutting edges and so on. We can also use the extrude, and the shape of the lacing will follow. So this is how it works. And if we take a look at how it's built, it's actually a modifier on top of a simple plane that generates the lacing. So once you're done, you can simply apply the modifier and you will have the regular mesh. And now we can take a quick look at some other new features. So for example, in the newest version, we can very easily change the color of the laces with this color picker over here. Then there is another new feature, that is the master size, which helps us set the proper size that will match the character or anything that we need laces for. And then there is the new display panel with the new Eyestay checkbox. So this Eyestay is just like a base mesh that can be helpful when, modeling the rest of the character, like part of the garment or part of the shoe. If we set the thickness to 0, then you get the simple plane with the holes in it. Alright, and now going back to our examples, we have the sneaker shoe over here, and like I showed you before, we can choose the profile from this drop down menu. So we can choose between flat, round, and custom. And for the round and custom, there are some additional settings in the profile panel. So we can choose the mesh for the custom over here. Then we can flip the normals if they were wrong. And also we can adjust the seam placement and the laces. Alright, and now let's take a look at the custom profile mesh and how we can edit it. So it is just a regular mesh. So all we have to do is go into the edit mode, and you will see that only the boundary edges are taken into the consideration for the profile of the laces. So we can adjust them, you can do whatever with this mesh, cut it, chamfer the corners and so on. Alright, and the next drop down menu is for the laces, where we choose the mode between the tied and untied laces. And for this, how it works, there are those two objects that are picked in the modifier as source objects, and these are curves. And for simply by going into the edit mode and adjusting the shape, you will see that those laces adjusted also in our generator. Alright, and another drop down menu is for the lacing style. I also showed you this before, however there is one additional detail about it. So now when you choose the straight bar, you will notice that we don't have any lacing underneath, which is, I believe, better for games. However, if you are doing some product presentation, you might need it. So there you have it, the straight bar bottom. And to hide those parts, simply use the depth adjust, and now it all looks properly. And just to reiterate, remember that you can also mix the styles between the cross and straight bar. So when you are in the cross lacing style, just go into the edit mode, and when you select the mark sharp edges, those will be straight bar. However, remember that mixing will work only for the standard eyelets, it will not work for the D-ring or hook eyelets. And next up is the master size, which is the slider that scales all the parts of our laces at the same time. And then we have the density parameter, which will automatically add more eyelets between the vertices of the control plane, which is great for high boots or something like that, where we don't need to do it all manually. Alright, and next up is the standard width and the thickness settings, which we can control separately. And it will work similarly for the round laces, where if we change just the width, we get this elliptical shape. However, if we want to change the diameter, we just need to select both of those sliders at the same time. And then there is the slider for the size of the eyelets, so we can control them with it. And then the standard subdiv, which is the subdivision of the all of the mesh. And then next up is the LDiv, which is the special type of subdivision along the length of the laces. And then below that we have the shape quality, which is the precision with which the shape will follow the shape underneath. And then, like I showed you before, we can easily adjust the colors over there. However, once we apply the modifier, and if we wanted to change the colors, then all we have to do is go into the shading tab, and there in the shader editor we can find this frame called color, and over there we have the attribute laces color. All we need to do is to cut this link, and then we can change the color from within the shader. Alright, and now let's get back to the standard white color for this type of shoes, and let's get back to the flat laces. So then there is this panel called display, and in there we have this new Eyestay setting. And for example, in this mesh, you can see that I used it as the base mesh. For the shoe, I just merged the shape of the shoe with the Eyestay, and this is the result. Then there are the checkboxes for the other parts like aglet, like eyelets, and then there is this width only setting, which will hide the ends of the lacing. And for all those parts there is this section called source, where we can plug our own meshes. So for example, you can plug your own eyelets. Just remember to keep the scale and orientation of those default objects. And then in the Laces Generator 2.0 there are some new further ways to customize the final look. So there is, for example, switch direction. So as you can see, the laces go into the eyelets from above or from below. Then we can flip the width horizontally, or we can flip it vertically, like in this case, which may be useful for clothing and so on. And then another feature that might be useful for the shoes is that we can choose if we start from under or from above. So as you can see, there is much more freedom to create a unique look for our laces. Alright, and next up we have the width strength setting, then there is the twist setting, then there is the depth adjust setting, so the laces won't protrude through the Eyestay. Then there is the laces push in and out for a bit more realistic look. Then there is the eyelet loop push in and out that controls this shape over here. And then there is the eyelet pinch which works like that. And then finally there is the chaos setting and the chaos offset. And while we edit, I would also like to recommend using Blender 4.5 or higher with this newest version of laces, since the UI works much better with the geonodes in this version of Blender. So when we change the profile to round laces, you will see that some of the sliders that are unnecessary disappear, and those will be the sliders that influence only flat laces. So moving on, now we have the eyelets panel where we can adjust some settings for those additional D-ring and hook eyelets. So let's preview those settings with this example of a boot. So the first setting is the D-ring eyelet slide, and with it we can tweak the placement of those eyelets. And now just to reiterate, remember that with Shift plus E we can change the type of the eyelets. So for now let's change those to standard eyelets, and now you can see that when we use the slide, only those eyelets will move. And then there is additional setting for the Z local, and with it we can tweak the placement of the laces so they fit perfectly with the eyelet, and this will be probably very helpful when using your own custom eyelets, so they can match perfectly. And now then there is the hook eyelets, and for those we have the identical set of settings, plus there is one more extra setting for the shape, where we can also adjust the width of the loop, so to speak. And then just a reminder that in the source panel you can plug in your own custom meshes for the eyelets. And then finally there is the panel for the Eyestay, which is the newest addition to the laces generator. So first we need to check it in the display panel, and now we have it, and for this we have a bunch of settings for it. So first of all we can use the unsubdiv so we can better see the topology, and then there are some settings like the eye size, then there is the width setting, then there is the thickness setting, so if we go to 0 we just get the flat plane, and then there is the bend setting for this, and then there are 3 settings for the support loops, so we get the support loops for the rings, for the sides, and for the middle part. Notice that this will appear only between the standard eyelets, and overall those settings will help very much with the shading. Alright, and this sums up the presentation of the new features in the Laces Generator 2.0. One last note before I end this video, however, a small troubleshoot. Just notice when editing the mesh and using the slide tool for the edges, which is by double hitting the G hotkey, you can notice that everything breaks. However, this is just because there was the correct UVs on, and if we just uncheck it, we can use this tool as well, and everything works perfectly. So this will be it. I hope you like what you are seeing with this newest version of Laces Generator. So go ahead, get into it. You can get it on Superhive and on Gumroad. Thank you for watching.